Yeah, it's working. Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to speak here. So my name is Fatia Abdi. I'm the deputy leader of the Dutch Labour Party in Amsterdam. So I'm a local politician in Amsterdam. And I am someone who has focused a lot on the online safety of children. Just to keep a long story short, because I could talk about this endlessly, but we're short on time. Youth criminality overall is declining, the numbers, but certain incidents are increasing, which among other are stabbing incidents. So when I first encountered this, and I actually got a call from a 13-year-old boy, Hamid, who I just mentioned here, who got stabbed to death at the age of 13. So I went there to talk with the school, everyone was in shock, and soon I realized that online played a really big role in these type of crimes. And as I was talking to civil servants and other policymakers, but also fellow politicians, all of them were like, yes, very important online, but what can we do? Very defeatist. And I felt there was a huge knowledge gap on what children knew in the online world and what we knew as adults. So what I then did, because I felt it was not taken seriously enough, I interviewed 80 children who are the age of 12 and 13 in my city, all kinds of levels of education, all kinds of backgrounds, which are very important to mention, to talk about their experiences in the online world. And what they shared with me was actually quite shocking, because almost all the children I spoke to encountered something that we as society would say is unsafe, from viewing extreme violent content to bullying attempts to sextortion. And why I'm telling you this, because this hasn't changed. So to give you one number, almost 80% of the children I spoke to either knew or experienced that their images were shared without their consent. And to give you an example what that means, recent research actually shown that online sexual abuse has the same negative effect as physical online abuse. So the longer your images are online and being circulated, the longer the abuse continues. And I feel that this reality of the young children in my city is not something that's actually well-lived. So I'll keep it quite short, because I think it's good to have an interactive conversation. But this is why I dived into this topic, and I actually want to go to Hadi, because he can talk very much about his work and effort he do, and then maybe we can talk about also the discussions going on now about banning social media, because I think that's something that's very relevant as well. Hadi.
Thanks a lot. My name is Hadi El-Khouri. I'm one of the leaders of L'Umérique, L'Umérique being the new name of ISSA France, which is a French association that has 15 years of legacy and that needs now to scale up. Why to scale up? Because we need to address as many children, as many adults as possible to get to this tipping point where a majority of adults are at least aware of the intricacies of the digital world. Not to ban, not to go back in time, which is impossible, but at least to make informed decisions. And this is really what the laboratory taught us during the last 6 years. We were a bunch of 3 to 4 people, and we met like 15,000 children aged from 7 to 17. We met 6,000 adults, and every time we were struck by the lack of knowledge they have. One of the questions we asked them, in your opinion, how come social media is free of charge? It takes them like 10 minutes to come up with its advertising. It takes them another additional 10 minutes to understand how Snapchat or TikTok knows that you like Nike or Adidas or something like that. It takes us as many minutes to make a link between the cookies, okay, and the business model of those platforms. I'm telling all this because we are today in the midst of a black or white, world, and it's not efficient. We need to put knowledge in the hands of children, of youngsters, and of adults. And we believe that by putting this knowledge, we maybe will get to a stringent respect of laws. maybe by bringing this knowledge, they will understand the why it's forbidden under 13 to have an account on social media, okay? By bringing this knowledge, they understand that they are signing, by the end of the day, they are signing a contract. The terms of use is a contract, are a contract, similar to any contract they sign when they get a loan or something like that. So it's really important to bring this knowledge. And to bring this knowledge, we need to be as many adults convinced and trained in order to, to get and reach those hundreds of thousands of children and adults.
Yeah. No, I think it's, yeah. So I think this is actually perfect. And maybe to give you a couple examples of that, I think one of the things that actually shocked me the most about policymakers in general is we need to be aware that social media is doing three things. It's adding in scale, it's sort of increasing the inequalities we have already in our society. So coming back to Amsterdam, the children that I fear the most when it comes to their well-being and safety are the children who don't have a lot of protection around them or someone who's actually interested in their inner life. We had a case of a young girl, Destiny, whose images were shared online, and it was a video made of her having, well, I couldn't say having sex, because I think it was, let's say it was rape. That was circulated, and the reason why she found out about it was being circulated because her nephew encountered this video in a closed chat group called Bro for Life on Telegram, and he informed her mom. He said, I'm seeing this video of Destiny being circulated. And while her mom was trying to have this conversation with her because she was first shocked, Destiny fled the house, went up to the stairs, 18 stairs of the flat that she lived in, and she threw herself off the flat and she died. And that was the first time, at least in Amsterdam, there was a complete shock of what's happening in the online world. So coming back to what Hadi was saying about the importance of online, one thing her mother is doing at the moment is going literally to classrooms in our city to say, please be interested in what your child is doing online. Not only just saying, don't do this, but show interest, ask questions, and tell them, even if they don't want to confide in you, they need to find someone they are able to confide in so they can be educated. And this is one of the reasons why I personally invite vigilant or aggressive, why banning on social media is actually not helping children. It's demonizing what they're doing online, and it's taking away the opportunity for them to actually be told, and to be taught, and to be understood as well. So I think that's a really, really important topic to head in, and I think that's why the work that Hadi is doing in having all these adults who are trying to do something about it as well, being educated, because I think that's where it starts.
Yes, indeed, and adults need to be empowered. Not adults in this room, but adults at a larger scale. They need to be empowered. You don't need to be a geek in order to impose parental authority. You don't need to be a geek in order to have a minimum of, I don't know, of a framework, okay? And the thing that is interesting in our laboratory, while interacting with all those children and adults, but mainly youngsters, is that when all our trainings, or animations if you want, are done without any projections. PowerPoint is shut off. There's no mobile app, there's no gaming, there are drawings. We have like 6 drawings, and those drawings are done by illustrators that that intervene in courtrooms. You know, in courtrooms, when the media relates, yeah, there's someone who describes this in a drawing. So we brought them in, and we told them, look, we have this situation. Yeah. Let me give you one of the drawings. One of the drawings is a drawing in 2 parts. The part on the left is a child, 10, 11 years old, playing on Fortnite on a PC. And on the other half, you have an adult. And this adult is not an adult that is 60 years or 70 years old, you know, those stereotypes of pedocriminals. It's someone who has like 40, 45. And he's hiding behind an avatar in order to interact with the child. So we show them this, and we tell them, can someone describe what you are seeing on this drawing? So they describe. We make sure that everyone understands what is on this drawing. So we tell them, do you think that the child is aware that there's an adult? No, he's not aware because he's using an avatar, and the avatar is the avatar of a child of his age. Yeah. We tell them, why, in your opinion, he's hiding behind that? Oh, he's hiding behind that because he's interested in children, because in the drawing we see that he's collecting, naked pictures of teens. Yeah, and then we bring them to this, consciousness that the threat is there, and what is the interest is there in hiding and getting to places where you have youngsters, and this is where I want to bring you in the conversation, is that one of the students raised his hand, and he told us, and he told his teacher, who's always present during our sessions, and he told us, crystal clear, I've been interacting through Fortnite, via Fortnite, with an adult for the last 33 years, and my parents are not even aware. There's no adult that is aware of the situation. So if we make a parallel with Me Too and, with all those things that need to be spoken out, I think that we need a sort of Me Too, positive Me Too, with youngsters, and those sessions allow such stories to pop up in order for us and for teachers to know how to deal with them, to connect the dots. The number of times where teachers tell us, "Oh, I was not aware that this student never eats with his parents. He always eats alone in his bed, with the iPad in his hands." So we need to connect the dots, and we need the children to speak out. And this is where we get the info, and we can know how to manage it and deal with it.
No, I completely agree, and I think that's one big part that I've been doing is, I think it's important to, first of all, talk to the children, and they tell you a lot, but they need a safe environment to do that as well. And I think also strongly believe that it's a very thin rope you're actually walking about, because you need to be aware of all the negative possible consequences. And I personally am actually convinced that the current online sphere is completely unsafe for children in many, many, many ways. But it's not helping to demonize social media, because it's integral part of their experience online. It also doesn't help to step on their rights to experiment who they want to become and what they want to do. And I think that shaming also needs to stop. But one of the three, I think I may highlight three things. I can talk about this for hours, but one of the things I try to do, what I think is important on a local level, is start the conversation early. So in Amsterdam, one of the things I've noticed, it matters who's giving you information. So when you have a baby in our city, one of the first things you do is we call the consultatiebureau, where they tell you how to feed your child, what you should be worried about. I've put in a proposal that's actually been just accepted to say, start the conversation about the digital world and everything that's happening for you as a parent when it comes to screen use and everything, and make that integral part of the conversation. Why? Because they are professionals who are being trusted. And almost every parent in the city goes to the consultatiebureau. I think that age-focused approach is extremely crucial, because then you teach parents, but also professionals around them, that they need to guide them as they grow up in this online world. Another thing, and I think it's something that is already happening in France, but not in the Netherlands, but create one trusted platform for help and report. If I am in trouble on the streets, I know to call 112, 991, universally now. A child, if something happens to them online, they don't know what to do. And they told me many times, and the same for adults, if you report something online, nothing happens. And going back to the story of Destiny, who I told you, she tried to take it offline, it wasn't possible. So I think that's extremely important, extremely urgent, and that's where I really echo what Hadi was saying about we need a positive Me Too movement, because how can this be acceptable, that this is happening, that there's no sort of help, and that the helplines who are in place are actually being cut in their funding. A whole other topic, but I think it's pertinent. The third thing I think is crucial to mention is, I believe if you educate children, you say something is wrong or your rights are being misused, we have to mean it as a government, as society. Now, and I think again, France is ahead of the Netherlands, but now, if something happens to you online, children experience, and let you told me, and I'm curious to know from Hadi if he has the same conversation. They're like, well, it doesn't matter if something happens to you online because it's called Wild West, it doesn't matter, and that actually creates this vicious cycle of victimhood and perpetrators who do this constantly because they very acutely know nothing happens. I had children who literally said to me, the right of the strongest, that's what counts online. That's what counts online. And I think it's really, really harmful. And I remember once, and as the last anecdote, I came to a classroom with these kids who felt already, they've been abandoned by society, huge distrustful, also distrust to me because I am part of government in their eyes. He said to me, I am a real man. It was a guy, a young boy told, I'm a real man. I'm a warrior. He literally, he was really keen to unsettle me. And I just had later on a conversation. I just went to his TikTok, and that's all I saw. All of these men, influencer, Andrew Tate-like figures, constantly in this loop, just to show that it is not something that we can overlook. And I think adolescence as a series, which is hugely popular now worldwide, has helped in this public knowledge, but it's already happening. So, yeah, I think that's why it's important to also have positive examples against it, also when it comes to what does it mean then to become a man, for example.
Exactly, and it's extremely important from our perspective also to bring the digital world to some real anchors, okay? We should bring it. It's lived as perceived as a satellite, It's as a metaverse or planet, different from planet Earth. This is why we always tend to bring them back to the reality of stuff. We ask them who watches. In France, they watch a TV game, which is Fort Boyard. In Fort Boyard, when they enter a room where there's a lady dressed in white, it is written on the, at the entrance, Duralex said Lex. And they all know about that. We tell them, what is Duralex said Lex? The law is tough, but it is the law. So we tell them, yeah, but when you are on social media, when you are on TikTok and you are 9 years old, okay, you are hors la loi. You are not. So they tell us, but there's no policeman at the in the city that will, that will put us in jail. And this is where we bring them the example. We always from analogies from real life. Yeah. We tell them, yes, you can have a Ferrari running across the street where it is limited to 30 kilometers per hour, and it is speeding up at 150. It is above the law. It is not respecting the law. And maybe someone will find you, someone won't find you. So as a citizen, as a European citizen, as a citizen to be, you don't need to have a cop above your shoulder in order to, to abide by the law. So all this to bring all these to realities, and also to bring them the stories since COVID, where Europol and Interpol and all those collaboration between police are bringing down cyber criminals, are putting them in jail, to tell them that it's people at the end of the day, we will get to them and we will put them in jail. So this is extremely important to go against this fatalism, okay? The platforms are too strong, or this is our world. We were born and we were raised and we are living in this world. We cannot do anything about that. So we need really to tell them, at least as Europeans, who until further notice are still attached to a certain view of liberties and stuff like that. So we need to tell them, no, it's not a fatality. It's in your hand. I'm giving you knowledge, I'm giving you information, and maybe you will be the inventor tomorrow of a different model. And there's a different model to be invented. So it's important also to stress out on the importance of we can do something about that.
I have honestly nothing to add to that, because I think that's honestly so important. And I think maybe, let me put it this way, on a personal note, people always like, well, why have you been so, focused on this? And I always say, when people say the personal is political, that's something I truly believe in, because I'm like, imagine being a single parent raising your children in this time of age, how are you going to be helped? You know, how are you going to help your child? And that's why I think the work that Hadi is doing, and many professionals I know as well in my city, is extremely important, because a child needs a sort of village around it to educate it, to protect it. And I believe we are possible, we can do that. I believe in this idea of a movement. But it's extremely urgent, because every time we introduce something, we're already 5, 10 years too late. You know, I've said it before, I was in an event in Brussels, I said DSA is 20 years too late. This whole idea of talking with companies, waiting to them give us our data, I can give you data. If I literally speak to 80 children in my city and they tell me this, their experience should be as relevant to the data the company is giving. Their experience should be number one, and not this whole sham. And I mean, just to give you some example, something I did was a bit radical. I don't know if I had it in France, but we had at one point, the whole city was full with ads for this teenager account by Meta, Instagram, saying, let's use the Instagram Meta. Everywhere, safe, 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 safe. I felt this is horrendous because it's a total sham, what's happening here. I said, we need to ban these ads. And people are like, why should we ban these ads? They're just ads of any other company. We need to ban these ads, because if we don't have an infrastructure that's actually helping these children, this is sort of type of marketing and part new. And you even notice this, me taking this as a small example, people are like, but this is Meta, they're such a cool company. That stopped now, at this moment, since the US elections. But I'm curious your experience.
This is when they know that it's an American company or a Chinese company or whatever, huh? That is behind. A lot of people, a lot of children, when we ask them how come it is free, they tell us it's our impôt. What is impôt in taxes? It's our taxes that pay for the platforms. It's the mobile subscription that pays for they don't know that. So it's very, very important to again to bring them to the realities of the business model,
yeah,
of the contracts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
This is something extremely important. And then there's something also that we fight against, and very toughly. We tell them, look, you have the choice between family A and family B. In family A, okay, dad, mom and dad, or dad and dad, or mom and mom, or whatever, they trust their children.
Yeah.
Okay? There's no parental control. Okay? It's open bar. But at any time of the day or the night, they can take the phone and delve into it. And delve into the secrets of their child, but also the secrets that are shared by the friends. This is family A. Family B is a family where there's a framework. We are against espionage. We are against espionage. We are against air tags in children's shoes or backpacks. Okay? But in family B, there are a lot of videos online that, you know, make the publicity of this. This is great. Put air tags in the backpack of your children. So we are not against that. We are against that. So family B, there's a framework. There's no espionage. And unless a really very serious incident, mom or dad or whatever won't get into the phone without the presence of the child. Yeah. And this is where we ask them, before we make this explanation and before, who's with or against parental control, and we see a shift. And here we tell them it's in your own interest. In order to preserve a minimum of privacy, in order to be a respectful custodian of your friend's secrets, it's in your interest to ask for a parental control. So again, all this is our choices of society, our choices of in which world we want to live.
Last words, I don't want to interrupt.
No, I think it's good to open to the crowd. I actually loved...
I don't want to interrupt, but unfortunately also she has an event at 5, so we have about 3 minutes if you do have questions. This is a conversation that I think a lot of us could go on for days and days, because we know we work in this space. And I love that you're bringing in the voices of the children and actually talking to them, because a lot of times, unfortunately, the industry, and that includes me, don't make decisions that are not necessarily involving the children's voices. So really appreciate this insight. Any questions or comments? I knew, Rashida, you were going to come. And I need to walk all the way to the back. Here.
Thank you. This is really insightful. You know, you're both coming at this from the public policy, civil society perspective, and I run a child safety consultancy. We come at this from the platform and product perspective. When you bring these findings, I assume you do kind of bring these findings to platforms and kind of share them and disseminate them. I'm curious what kind of reactions you get, and if there's any difference in the responses from different types of social media or other type of platforms.
Shall I? Yeah. So when I presented my findings, I actually handed over to the mayor of Amsterdam because not to be arrogant, but nobody cares who I am unless you do that. But the mayor, that's a totally different atmosphere. And next day, I organized an event where TikTok actually was with me on stage. And the room was also full of some of the children I interviewed. And TikTok was like, no, this is what we're doing. We are trying to make it as safe as possible. And I remember getting into a bit of a debate. And he was like, no, but these are excesses. And these children were literally scrolling and showing me what was happening on their phone. So TikTok I found quite dismissive. When I spoke to Snapchat, it was even worse. Because Snapchat was like, we're not a platform. We're not a platform. We're a community. We're not a company. We're not a company. All of this like idealistic stuff. For me, it makes me a bit more cynical because I'm like, it's in your interest as well to make your products safe for your children and experience for children. So I actually got quite cynical to platforms. They're quite aggressive. I don't know how it's in France, but they're quite aggressive in the Netherlands in lobbying against any sort of type of measures. And that's why it's so important constantly, at least from my role, to bring those voices back and constantly tell them what is happening, what's actually happening, and not what the data they're giving. And this is something that at the moment I'm working on with a couple other cities to actually plead to the Commission, please, when you're talking about the DSA and implementing these rules, taking the experience of the people who are actually affected by it, and they're not consumers.
I guess my question follows the same point on the platforms. I think we all know that platforms know exactly what goes on and how they design their products, right? And what is their objective to maintain children or young people using it more and more and more. But one of the things I wanted to hear from you, because I guess in the beginning you sort of hinted to it, but didn't mention much, is the ban of young people using digital platforms. What's your point of view on those?
Maybe Hadi, first you?
How much time do we have?
It's not a question of banning. It's a question of respecting the law. The law is crystal clear. Let's respect the law. But in order to respect the law, we need pedagogy. Because the biggest trap we all fell in is the trap of free. Being free make us not read the terms of use. Whereas when you take a loan, okay, for a car or for a house, you read the bits and bytes of the contract. So there is this very, very strong and powerful mechanism of the business model that makes it necessary to bring knowledge and pedagogy. And we are seeing the impact. We are seeing the impact when we tell parents, talk among yourselves. Okay, because if I ban in my family, okay, my child will ask to go and sleep over in your family, where the rules are different. Whereas if we have a minimum understanding of stuff, we will maintain a minimum framework where there are no loopholes. And this is really where numérique comes into place. This butterfly effect, where every adult at its doorstep will talk to its neighbor, talk to its father, its aunt, its brother during family luncheons, etc., etc. And this is where we bring the knowledge. The number of times where adults tell us, I was not even aware that 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3 for us are basics. But there are not basics for the standard and the lambda citizen. So it's not a question of banning or not banning. The law is crystal clear, but we need to accompany those people. We need to accompany them.
No, I fully agree. And maybe a small thing to add. I think it's also I feel really strongly feel you're not actually helping the children. They will find a way. First of all, I remember when I was in a classroom full of boys, all of them knew exactly to me how they should go to some of these closed group on Telegram. So you're not actually helping. So if your objective is to help, you're not doing it, and you're demonizing their life. You're demonizing their life because so much of their life also happens online. And I think what's the focus should far more be in this: how can we have an honest conversation with the children that they feel they can learn, they can be educated, exactly what Hadi was saying, but also our policy and political focus should be on two ways. So yes, you need to focus on the platforms and that should uphold the law. We need to be really aggressive because that's where the responsibility lies. But we need to also be as aggressive in creating an infrastructure that really helps children to have their rights respected and their coming of age. And I think that's where the discussion, it sounds really tough, we say, spierbarretaal, we say in Dutch, but it means jack shit. That's literally what I always say when I talk to other politicians. Great for you to have a quote in the paper, you're not helping a child, at least not in my city.
I think it is so difficult, though, as a parent and as a child, because one, if you don't get the information as a child, then they just go with what they know, right? So they have multiple ways to be educated. School, parents, teachers, churches, if you like, influencers, etc., right? But I think there are also avenues that are being missed or that are happening where the parents actually don't no longer want to educate their child and necessarily say, well, that's the platform's responsibility. That's not me, right? I parent them offline, but when it comes online, it's the platform's responsibility to protect my child. And that is then very difficult to go against, right? Because they're the ones that we need to reach. They're the ones that we need to really pay attention to and get to the children to say, look, there may be a disagreement between you and your parents, but you need to know these information around the internet and online world.
We intervene a lot during parents' conferences in schools, okay? And in September, we were intervening in a school where you had 6 classes, 6 classes times 30, you have 180 children. How many parents we had in the room? 15. And the 15 that were present were here to increase their knowledge because they are already aware of all this. Whereas you have the 80% that we need to address that are not there. This is why, again, we are launching Numérique in order to reach those people. Every single person at its doorstep, within his own family, etc., etc. This is where we can get to these people. And it's really critical if we want to tip it off.